This is the tool. Yep. And you don't need it, but I'll give you.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Do you hear me well? Good. So first of all, thank you for having me. I want to apologize first for my brain freezes. I just flew in from Canada and I still have jet lag, so I won't be as comfortable holding a mic and focusing on the presentation as well. So sometimes I will have the brain freeze. And, oh yeah, that's just me. All right. So why I'm talking about automation and why is it key to success in my opinion? Well, we heard today a lot that whenever we are focusing about motivation and whenever we are focusing on a passion in a new career way as well, it's really a key to not spend all our time on repetitive and boring tasks. So through my story, how I became also a serial entrepreneur, I can introduce you how I used AI. I will tell you why I don't like the term AI as well, to make sure that I can focus on what I like to do, is traveling to cool locations, working with cool teams like the organizers here, and also working on projects that I like. My first company was, well, a pretty boring one. The main idea was behind, 15 years ago, is to just create websites for people. So I started to make a software agency, and I started to hire more and more people as more jobs came in. And then, in the end, it immediately consumed 60 hours of my week to just manage the software agency. And then I became a consultant after, while having the other company as well. And then that consumed another, well, 20 hours of the week when organizing all the projects, focusing on the researchers, how to handle all the information and have the reports ready. And then I started to fall in love with education. I realized my real passion is to educate people and allow others to create impact. So currently, I'm teaching in 41 universities in 23 countries. And, well, you can imagine how much time that takes. So the only way to make it happen is to remove some of my boring tasks, like report writing or preparing presentations. All can be done by AI as well. This is all generated as well. And I want to make sure to highlight that whenever we are focusing on the things that we like, we are more productive. I used AI, again, AI or machine learning to remove all these tasks. So I will tell you through this presentation how I removed at least 40 hours per week through automation, and then that allowed me to do even more tasks. This one, yeah. So my academic background, I did a master in computer science, I did another master in innovation in ICT, and then I finished my PhD in automation and machine learning. Well, in PowerPoints usually use AI as a term, but in the end, I don't think we are right there, as we just discussed as well. I think creativity is still missing from AI, and that's why I just call it machine learning. So I use this PhD. I already had 2 companies that time, so I used this PhD to really make research on how to actually make myself, or allow myself to be a bit more lazy and only focus on things I like. First, I started with process mining, just analyzing where are my bottlenecks. What process mining is analyzing logs of ERPs like SAP or the CRM systems with communications that you really can just go through who did what and then analyze that, finding bottlenecks. You see the deeper patterns there. And then you can just eliminate those by either hiring new people or just using AI there or automate some of these tasks. And then when I became a consultant, I was starting to work with Deutsche Telekom, biggest financial institutes in Europe, Ericsson as well, and then EPAM Systems. I realized also that it's not only the processes that has to be improved as well, but how people communicate during these processes. So the other spot there is organizational mining. It's part of process mining, but the key idea that you can use process mining for, and organizational mining in your company or in your career as well is to identify how to communicate effectively and how to structure your organization more efficiently. In organizational mining, what you do is analyze how people are really connected inside your company, inside bigger organizations as well, So not just having a finance department, having a computer science department, a deployment, a testing department, but see who works together really and where are the bottlenecks in the communications as well. And by restructuring, you can eliminate that and make it more efficient as well. And then the last one, which is the topic today, I really wanted to figure out how to automate things, how to predict incoming tasks, and how to, well, remove myself from the pipeline, because I was the bottleneck in most of the cases when I had to work 80 hours a week. And what we are really good at in Europe, I think, is really focusing on work-life balance as well. Because right now, I'm leading the North American headquarters of our company in Vancouver, Canada. I see there people are just dedicating their life to work and to make themselves successful, grow their companies. But in Europe, luckily, we also have a focus on work-life balance. So I really wanted to understand how I can also pursue, because I'm a workaholic. I love to work, I love what I'm doing. Luckily, I found a job that I'm passionate about and I can do all day, all night. But I hate the boring parts, the repetitive work. So that was the passion to lead to automation. And I just want to drive you through in one use case how automation helped to remove 16 hours of my work week. So here is a pipeline of an activity of a software agency. Well, clients ask a new feature, and then how does it turn into the deployed solution? First of all, I was in a lucky situation that I understand innovation, I understand software development. I was my own first software developer. I have, well, 14 years of experience now in there. And I understood how a client, what's the client's needs when we have an hour discussion. I can transform that into tickets, and I can make sure that my developers are picking up, deploying in the right time, and the whole communication flow is fluent. My software developers don't want to talk with people. They hate talking with others. They just want to disappear, work in their own room. Well, I'm one of them. So after this show, we will do a little bit of networking, and I go back to my hotel, hug my knees under a shower to just recharge a little bit. But as I learned patterns of being an extrovert, I realized I can, well, the original one, there was a question today, how we are choosing between career growth and maybe money and revenue. That time, I was only choosing because I wanted to grow in the revenue side and not because of the passion. So I realized I can be this bridge in between the client and the software developers and then scale up. So suddenly I had 12 developers, and then I had to make sure that all of these tickets are communicated, and I realized I'm the bottleneck. Sometimes through like a 40 days new feature release, my bottleneck was 12 days out of it because I didn't reply in time on emails, I was on flights, I was talking on stage, and I couldn't reply in time. So I wanted to automate it. Meanwhile, you're pretty sure already read it. What I did is when the client sends an email, well, nowadays there is ChatGPT. I developed a large language model as well myself 9 years ago, which is translating that email to a software developer ticket. Because, well, we communicate differently. Maybe you already have experiences talking with software developers as well. We do understand values, issues, and solutions differently. So it translated it into a ticket. And that ticket was picked up by one of my developers in a, well, on our own ERP, which is handling tickets inside and tasks and communications. And then whenever they were done with the task, they submitted, committed into Git, and then it automatically generated an email to the client that the new feature that you asked in this email was solved, and it was uploaded and deployed to the test server. Please make a test and try it out. This is how you imagined it. And then the client received this email, they replied. Again, that would be my task to understand the reply. But another large language model and a semantic analysis, which is helping you to understand if a message was positive or negative. If it was positive from the client, automatically we accepted the ticket. And if it was negative, I took a look. So that removed 16 hours of my work week just to communicate. It reduced it to 1.5, out of which 1 hour is having dinners with my clients. And that I still want to keep. I don't want to automate it. Well, I like to travel to nice locations and have nice dinners there. So that was one use case of how AI can help automate and scale up your organization as well. And what are the other benefits of AI and software tools that we can use to automate our tasks. Obviously, we are more efficient. We remove bottlenecks. We are not making mistakes with them. Well, barely. You still have to pay attention, especially when you talk with ChatGPT, because we just saw that there can be wrong solutions as well when we're asking why people are not going up to the 30th floor. So AI can be a very confident, stupid uncle as well. Most probably you had these discussions as well in the family when someone confidently stating false statements. Well, ChatGPT is a very good example of that. So what else is there is the insights that you can gain from this. You can get insights of what went wrong in the process, how you can improve it, and again, use it for process mining. Your own data can be also used for process mining to improve the processes. What tools I'm talking about, I developed them myself 9 years ago. Now there are all alternatives for that. For process mining, there is Celonis. Celonis is the biggest one who is helping with process mining. But if you want to go for a cheaper or a free version as well in your own organization, which is less fancy and not looking as good, then you can go for Prom or Disco. Disco is easy to remember, which is helping you to identify all your bottlenecks and what you are doing wrong and where you can actually change the processes to make it more optimal. And then if you want to do organizational mining, Prom also is a completely free tool helping you to do that. Usually, telecom companies and Ericsson and financial institutes are paying hundreds of thousands of euros, if not millions of euros, for consultants like me to figure out these issues. When the tool is available online for free, you can just run through the database, and then you get the insights, and, well, you just have to nowadays throw it in ChatGPT, and then you have the report. But previously, I had to write the report, and that's what I wanted to automate. So in the end, I can just sit back. Prom is generating me the insights. ChatGPT is generating the report, and I'm, well, cashing in the ticket. So what you can do with these tools is, I think, really important, how you can automate and make yourself focusing on the things that you really like. I fell in love with education, helping others to create impact. So we started a company which is consulting startups on how to be efficient and how to get more investments for your ideas and make an impact in the world. And that led into the educational career of mine when we are teaching in universities, students like me who made all the mistakes. I did all the mistakes. I think that there is an entrepreneurial book. If you learn about how to create a company, you will learn all the mistakes I had. I had a software agency which didn't have its own websites for 6 years. I threw in all the efforts into one big project with the biggest client. So 70% of my revenue was coming from one client, which is also a mistake. So we made all the mistakes, and we can always learn from successes. But success can be also just being lucky and being at the right time. I was in the right time in the first company. I did software development, making websites 15 years ago. Everyone wanted websites, so I didn't need marketing. I didn't need sales. I never validated any of my ideas. I was good at communication, one-on-ones, not on stage. I'm still feeling uncomfortable here. But whenever I went through with these success stories, when they asked, okay, talk about my companies, talk about what I achieved with them, I realized if I tell you what I did with my first companies, then that's all wrong, and I don't want you to learn from that. That's why I love to share failures, because from failures we can always learn. And it's very important to be proud of our failures as well. Machine makes mistakes as well. We make mistakes, and we have to make sure that those mistakes are cheap, and then we can catch them as soon as possible. So that's why you repetitively have to validate every new feature that you are releasing, every new hypothesis. You have to validate your client, your problem. I like the previous speech as well, when we're discussing how important it is to understand our problem. Because a lot of times we just jump into solution ideation, especially now that the tools are speeding up this process immediately. But we sometimes don't understand the root cause of the issues as well. So it's very important to always validate not just the customer, not just the problem, but also the solution as well. And what you can do, you can use AI for validation. You can do all your research as well. You can speed up the the online research with all of these AI tools. That also is removing some of the tasks in an entrepreneurial career. And then you still have to get out of the building, machine is not serving everything. It's not solving everything for you. So in the beginning, I thought 40 hours, right? And I already explained how I saved 16 of that. And one of my big failures was I spent 2 years on figuring out how to solve one of my other big bottleneck, and I was looking for software solutions. I'm talking about automation here and how important all this machine learning and AI tools are, but in most cases, the solutions are very simpler. So the issue was that I spent, on the software development, I spent more than 16 hours just talking with my developers about bugs. If you are familiar with software development, usually you spend 3 hours of writing the code and 18 hours to debug it whenever you find a mistake. So what happened, my phone was always ringing. I picked up. My developer started to explain what's the issue. And then I asked, OK, what does your code do? Because I don't see it right now. I'm walking. And then after half an hour of talk, they realized what's the mistake. I never had to tell anything. They just had to call me as the senior developer to get answers. But in the end, always, if they just take a step back, they realize what's the mistake or what they have to improve. So what I did, I started to read about this, all the software tools I tried out, how to automate this communication. But in the end, you just have to force them to take a step back and talk as well. And I read a book about the pragmatic programmer, which is the Bible of programmers, where there is an article about the rubber duck syndrome. I really loved that the rubber duck appeared in the video as well. So in the end, I was the rubber duck for my developers. They always called me. They told me how their program works, and while explaining it to me, they figured out the mistake. So that's about the rubber duck syndrome, that you just put a rubber duck on your desk, and you start to explain to the rubber duck who doesn't know anything about your code, or anything about your solution, anything about the proposal you wrote, anything about the email that you just want to triple check, and then explain it to that. And then you realize the mistakes. So I spent 2 years on figuring out a software solution, and then I realized sometimes the biggest time savers, now it's 16 hours a week, is just a rubber duck, or just simple as it is as any cardboard solution as well. So I just want to make sure that you are not falling into the mistake and you're learning quicker than I did, not into years of research of how to automate that 16 hours, but always validate as soon as possible and as small pieces as possible that you do, and be proud of your mistakes. Always advertise them. So I encourage you, whenever I'm finishing here and we will leave this room, with the networking, also introduce yourself with the biggest failure that you did professionally, and then explain what did you learn from it. It's a great challenge. It's great practice. We are not as good as we are in the USA or in North America, that they are always talking about their failures as well. In Europe, it's still a stigma. Let's fight it and don't make it a stigma. If you want to talk about my failures, feel free to get in touch with me. This is my LinkedIn. And then always, I will be outside as well, and I'm glad to explain more about automation and how it's not always solving all the issues that you have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions? For questions?
One question. Do you think that artificial intelligence can actually create codes and make the programs by itself?
It does. To be honest, already 6 years ago, it started as a web development firm, a software agency. I went into a client's meeting. I brought an iPad with me. We were starting to draw down what will be the website looking like, just making some squares, making some, okay, this will be the text box and so on. Oh. And I left the meeting saying to the client, it will take 3 to 4 months to develop it. And I left the room, I pressed the button, and the code was generated. It was done. Cool. Already 6 years ago. So in the end, well, you still have to tell the client it's 3 months, because it was difficult to understand 6 years ago that they have to pay, I don't know, 50,000 euros for that button that I pressed. But, well, you are paying for the software I created before to generate it. But yeah. So
it fixes all the bugs as well?
Yeah. Well, not human-written ones. Now, there are less bugs. So now my software developers are mostly using Copilot, and Stack Overflow also released the Overflow AI, which is generating codes by approved methods and approved solutions as well on Stack Overflow, which I'm really thankful for my master's and bachelor degree, because I think 90% of my degree is Stack Overflow. So yeah, nowadays AI can write code really well. You can just explain what you want, and it generates the code for you, and it works.
So it can also fix my website if I want?
Yes, you can generate websites very easily.
Can you repeat again this platform?
Yeah, Overflow AI is one, and the other one is Copilot.
Thank you.
So here we are, some useful knowledge already in use. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure listening to you. Thank you.
Thank you.